Now, what else? I want to talk about the BRICS currency. This is coming in August, according to rumors. It is obvious that United States wants to maintain its hegemony, and it launches this warfare with proxy wars against major competitors like Russia and China. What it will do, it is that it will launch proxy wars. It will impose sanctions on those countries. So where is United States strength lies? Where what is the strength of United States right now? Number one, finance and economy. Strength, it's US economy is not strong right now, but what is US comparative advantage is finance and technology. And number three is navy. These three advantages. Now, if Russia and China want to continue their rise to power, they need to protect themselves against American sanctions via finance and technology. The sanctions that America imposes through finance and technology. And the biggest way US does that is through the US dollar. So if Russia and China want to continue their rise, they must turn the tide against US dollar. They must get rid of US dollar as a reserve currency, as a global reserve currency. And how do you get rid of US dollar? Without you just cannot do that without offering something better, a better alternative to most of the countries. And the only way to do that is through the gold standard, a currency based on the gold standard. And I think that's what Russia and China are going to try. They'll introduce another currency, and that is based on gold standard and possibly also on other commodities. What US does, it exports its inflation all over the world via its currency. Whether it's just devaluation of currency through just printing, endless printing, or quantitative easing, or what it also does is it can also do that via raising the interest rates, which will devalue other currencies compared to dollar by making the dollar stronger. So we have to see what happens in this BRICS summit. Also, in the BRICS summit, Macron was rejected. Macron asked to be invited, to be the first country to be invited to this BRICS summit, but he was rejected. You know who has been invited? Almost all of the African nations. Yes, South Africa is the host of the BRICS summit, and South Africa has invited almost all of Africa. It's looking rough for US dollar. US dollar will probably come to an end as a reserve currency in this decade or the early 2030s. And all that remains is technology. China is expert in that. All China has to do is hack and then reverse engineer US technologies. China has been doing that, by the way, and they'll continue to do that. But without an industrial base, because it was shipped to China, US and European economy is just based on finance. And if the financial power is gone, the technological power is gone, what's left? At least US is and autarky. US is food independent, US is energy independent. It can become energy independent. I think right now it's not. Under Biden administration, under Trump administration, it became energy independent. Under Biden administration, I don't think it is, but it can become energy independent once more. And at least US has a better chance of surviving the post de-dollarization world. But even US is deeply divided amongst itself. That makes it harder. But I think US will bring back manufacturing. It's not looking good for Europe. At least US can just reindustrialize. US is rich in natural resources, quite rich. It's richer than China. It's not as rich as Russia when it comes to natural resources, but I think it's richer than almost the entire world. Not combined, but it's richer than the entire world. And I think they'll restart their industrial economy, and US will become great power in late 30s, early 40s, or at least let's be generous. Late 30s to late 40s, United States will emerge as a great power once again. Right now it's going downhill, and once dollar is gone as a reserve currency, once de-dollarization accelerates, it's already accelerated, but if de-dollarization just completely takes off, then US power will fade. So it will be this decade is a decade of major geopolitical upheaval, and it's going to be an interesting decade. If you are European, you possibly have the worst decade right now. If you are American, if you are Indian, you probably have a great decade. American will go down a little bit and it will come back up. India, you probably have a great decade ahead of you. China also probably have a great decade, but China's demographics are bad, that therefore it is hard to bet on China long term. You can bet on China in short and to medium term, but not long term. In India, on India and on United States, you can bet long term. United States is not looking good short to medium term. Russia also not looking good long term, but at least Russia has resources. Russia can become self-sufficient. Also, I mean, it already is self-sufficient, but even if world moves away from hydrocarbon based transportation and energy production, Russia can become and can stay as a great power, because Russia has a lot of natural resources that can provide them with nuclear energy, and they can also be a great solar power if they want to be. They probably will stick to nuclear and eventually transition to solar. But if you are European, it's not looking good for you. Not looking good. So it will be interesting to see what happens at the BRICS summit in August 2023.